Hey everybody, welcome to Super Comic Fun Times Daily Vlog. Tonight we are going to talk about Mr. Miracle 17 and 18. These by Doug Moench, Joe Phillips, and Bob Dvorak. I believe 17 is the first issue where, Bob Dvorak came on in issue 16. And so, the art is pretty good. I really like these covers for both of them. So, nothing like this happens in the book, but it's just a very interesting, playful cover, I guess, with all of the, Scott kind of being, I really don't know what's going on here, but it's playful and it's exactly the opposite of what happens in the book. And then this one was really exciting because you have Granny Goodness, and what she's saying, no one disobeys Granny Goodness. Let me hold that up a little better. So, yeah, we are going to Apokalips this time. Now, like the last couple of issues, it was like they were kind of okay. Nothing really jumped out at me in them. But these are actually better. So we're starting off in space again, and they're in their little cluster ship, and they're heading to their next gig, and the planet isn't there. So they think, one theory they come up with immediately is, well, the last planet was really colossal and we had no idea. Maybe this one is microscopic. But no, it's a trap by Darkseid, and Scott recognizes it right away because of the boom tube. And this is a very cool picture. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Apokalips like that. I really like that art. Yeah, it's just beautiful. So then, you got Darkseid is like, plotting, scheming about Scott getting away and whatnot. And yeah, in this first episode, then we're reintroduced, for longtime fans who know who the Furies are, and for people like me who don't know that much about the Furies. That's what Barda was. Big Barda was one of Granny Goodness's Furies. So we get a whole introduction to each of them. And so, yeah, Darkseid contacts Granny Goodness, and like the Granny Goodness's problem is Scott Free got away, and that put her out of favor with Darkseid. So now Darkseid has called her up, and so we get like, who are these people? So, you've got Artemis the Huntress, and that's, of course, based on the Greek myth. Artemis, or Diana, was the goddess of the moon and the hunt. The hunt lit the forest for the thing, and she's got two cyber dogs. When I first, read this, I thought like the whole, the Furies were the cyber pack, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then she's not even the leader of them. But and then it's like Harriet the Hag, so she's the kind of ugly, hunched over one here. There's Bernadette, and she's the current leader. That's where like I kind of knew like I was confusing stuff, because why would this be her cyber pack if she's the leader? And then and that's when I put together that there's like two little dogs there. Well, not little dogs, but they're cyber dogs. And last but not least, the stupendous Stompa. So basically, you've got a roller derby team here. That's what the Furies are. They're basically a team of roller derbies. And then, like, I guess everybody in these books has robots. So Granny Goodness has all these robots for the Furies to practice on. And, they kind of tear them apart, and you see, like, each one, like, Stompa. What this reminds me of is, like, a week or so ago, I did a Captain Marvel, a Shazam one, where, like, there were these female characters, bad guys who came in, and, like, the whole thing is Captain Marvel couldn't talk to girls. So that was, like, his big weakness, and he ended up having to run away. Having a little ginger brandy tonight. I don't know if it's as good as regular black brandy, but it's got a very nice spicy ginger flavor to it, and I like it. So yeah, then we get that introduction, and then Oh yeah, and I guess one of the Furies had been killed, and Darkseid shows up and he revives this one, who, what was her name? Oh, Lashina. So Lashina is, I guess she died at some point, and so Darkseid decides to bring her back to life to go after scot-free. I mean, I think it's just to bring the character back. I don't think there's any other reasons for it. It's like, yeah, and then like we move back. Barda doesn't really shine as much as she did in the last issue. She's in jail. She's her lawyer comes, and everybody thinks Scott-Free is dead because the robot, which I still don't. I did do a tiny bit of research, and I found out there's like a JLA special #1, and that's where all of the story between issue 12 of Mr. Miracle and issue 13 takes place. So I'll have to head to my local comic shop and see if I can find that one, because according to the tiny bit of research I said, that it said that issue was pivotal, and I guess that was where they kind of established Big Barda and Mr. Miracle as part of the Justice League, which then it doesn't make sense to me. Like, we come back and Big Barda's at home. It's very confusing how they decided to write this back in the day. So yeah, so she's going there, and then and these kids are still like, they decide they're going to hold a tri-state yard sale to sell all of the Miracle Mister, and they get this mud, and these ladies show up, and all that's there is this this cleaning product, and they feel cheated. And since it's raining out, it's created mud. So one of the kids splashes the ladies with mud. They get mad, but then they hit him with the Mister, and they're really happy, and they start buying, and then they call all their friends, and that continues into the next issue. So yeah, so they decide. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dumb too. Is like, what's his name, Magna and Flashman, Funky Flashman. Scott doesn't want to go to Apokalips. He says it's a trap. It's nothing is going to come of it. But for whatever reason, a contract is a contract, and Magna and Funky Flashman want to go to Apokalips to try to sell their soap there. And interestingly, it works. So, like, how Scott does his tricks is he's got the mother box, and he talks to the mother box. The mother box has got an impression of his subconscious mind, and they get him all dirty, and he's going to jump into a vat of his cleaning solution. But at the, and all the crowd are there, and the people of Apokalips. I think this is the first time I really know the people of Apokalips. And, they just seem sort of like the mud eaters from Monty Python, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the people who are poor and eating mud and whatnot. So Scott, he goes for it. The mother box sort of like tells him not to go into the pool, and they end up, the crowd gets roiled, and Oberon, he starts spraying them with the cleaner, and they're like clean for the first time, and it's like, Scotty, where'd you go? Hey, what's the big idea, you mangy little? Wonderful, man. We've never been clean. Yeah, and it feels good. It feels great. So in this issue, I don't know, like previously, I don't think I had the issue where Scott invented the cleaning solution, but in this issue, they reveal that, or he reveals that there's part of his essence, part of his soul in it. And that's confusing too, because when Scott decides he doesn't want to have anything to do with the cleaning business, he refuses to synthesize any more of it for Funky Flashman, and the head and Funky Flashman sort of like, it seems like they're going to, the head seems to say he can create it. So I don't know, like, if in that special issue of the JLI, that's where Scott says, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to sell soap too. I don't know. It's a very strange story. And so, yeah, then we're back at the funeral. And, this, since I just read The Watchmen, this reminded me of The Watchmen. But anyways, like, some part of Barda knows. I mean, this is another thing that's good about this is, like, this arc is Bart is in prison, and she believes Scott is dead, and a portion of Scott is in this Mr. Miracle, Miracle Mister, but she's like thinking here that it doesn't make sense, and I think that's her subconscious mind telling her it doesn't make sense. It's like, there's a funeral going on and there's a priest here, but since Mr. Miracle is more or less a new god, why would and they don't ask us to question it. But I guess in JLA 40, it's like the what's his name? Well, I don't know. I guess he's just a priest. They don't give his name, but they do say, for a complete eulogy of Barda versus Max, see JLA 40. So apparently part of this funeral takes place in JLA, but she's like questioning, where are the forever people? Where's High Father? Haven't they felt it in source? And then she says, this is a farce. So part of her knows that she goes, an empty coffin, an earth minister, a show for the living. A show, yes, not reality. I can't believe it. I was one of the Furies, a pawn of Darkseid, until Scott gave me what? Goodness? Yes, his goodness. But now that he's gone, the goodness in my life is gone. So I found that to be very, very interesting. And then, when we find out that Scott's goodness is in this mist, it is, and it's sort of like helping to clean up Apokalips a little bit. It's really kind of cool. And so then, then the kids are here and they're selling it. But, they're kind of just like greedy little twerps. They found out a secret and they exploited it for their own gain. And, that itself is like, because I think like they show up in issue 4 and then I don't have any issues until issue 8 and they're already scheming. But it seems like Mr. Miracle saved their lives. So why are they being such, jerks and whatnot? And trying to, I don't know what's really going on with those kids. I don't know if that's going to be revealed. And so like while all of this stuff is going on here, Oberon is like saying, well, why did you miss the pool? And he goes, well, I suspect it's because the mother box thinks that, or some part of me thinks that we'll need all of the cleaning solution we can get. And that's just when the Furies show up. Kind of a nice shot there. And then, Scott fights the Furies. Another Dick Tracy big movie of 1990, which I enjoy. I think it flopped, but I kind of like that movie. I think it's kind of cool. Nothing wrong with it. I don't know that it was, that any bit of it was inspiration for Batman Begins, but the fact that they change Bruce being in the opera, there's like opera in Dick Tracy, very stylized opera. And so I kind of wonder if, what's his name, the director of Batman Begins, was a fan of Dick Tracy. And I think it's a fun movie. So, if you've never checked it out, just heard bad reviews of it, you should check it out. It's very good, very stylized. I'm not sure why people don't like it. I should probably do some research on that. So anyways, they're fighting, and then you have like this Stampa chick coming down on Scott's, and nice artwork there. And then, he makes a really bad pun. He's sorry, that's no way to defeat me. Ha ha ha, get it? And then like another, like the hag comes and tackles him. So, the point is it's a 2-part story. So, he's probably going to get defeated and captured by the Furies. And that's what happens. And then we have the big reveal here. This is reminiscent of one of the Jimmy Olsens from when Jack Kirby was writing it, because you've got these 2 businessmen. These are the guys who are doing the animal testing that Bart is so upset about. And it turns out they're working for Darkseid, and they're working on something that will mutate animals first and then human beings. And just look at that smile on Darkseid's face. Look at that. What do you think he uses? Like Crest? What was that one with Aquafresh? Aquafresh, maybe they used that on Apokalips. So, yeah, it pretty much ends with the Furies bringing Scott to Granny Goodness. And let's see if she says anything interesting. She asks, is he dead? And they go, Not quite, Granny. We saved that honor for you. Then Granny is quite pleased, dear Furies. And soon Lord Darkside himself will be pleased, because you brought me the best of prizes, a wayward pupil. And we know what that means, don't we? It's time for Granny to punish. So yeah, I really this issue is pretty good. It's not as good as the concluding episode, but there's a lot of good stuff going on in here. And it's this cover. It just drives me crazy. It's like, you know, is there like some hidden message there I'm not getting? Probably. Although, as weird as that cover is, I find this one almost more disturbing because you see like just the look on his face. Now this cover is much more apropos of what's in the book. You see like Scott is defeated. He's in a submission pose. Granny Goodness has got this punishment stick. That's what the people on Apokalips buy their soap with. They barter for, they give away their punishment sticks to get the clean air. And so you have stuff going on here. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched Rome. I really like that TV show, but one of the plot points in there is when Julius Caesar is becoming unpopular, they're like putting graffiti up, to kind of oppose him. So here it's like clean Apokalips now. So these people who've experienced cleanliness for the first time, they want to be clean. And, one of the mobs of unclean apocalypsians or whatever they would be called show up, and they're like, they just want to beat them up, and until like they get sprayed with the miracle mister, and then they all kind of join together and they want to go. It's almost like they're addicted to this in a certain point. And Oberon, he got knocked out. It's like he got knocked out at the end of the last issue, and he's just lying in the streets. Scott tells Manga and Funky Flashman to get into the shuttle, and they do. And so then we find like Scott here, and like he's really kind of down in this one. And he's like saying things like, a trap worthy of Granny Goodness, maybe even Darkseid himself. If I slip the shackles, the lasers cut my freedom very short. And the way I'm feeling now, it wouldn't be much of a loss. So he's kind of depressed. He's like really defeated now. And this is like what I was looking for in the maze in that one episode. So, this is like where we get some really good, in my opinion, character development, psychology of Scott. What he's actually going through. He's come from this horrible place. He was sent here by his father, and those are the things that are always driving him. And then we get Granny Goodness, and she's training a bunch of other people. You know who Granny Goodness reminds me of, since I didn't discover her until after, is Futurama. There's like the mother figure in there who's got the 3 dopey sons, and they pretty much own all the businesses on Earth. They're like robot oil. They stay rich because robots need to be lubricated. So anyways, then we're in a scene with Funky Flashman, and not too much goes on with them. But then Oberon brings the crowd with him, and they use all of the cleaning solution, and they're so interested in selling this soap. And of course, the soap is a metaphor. And the really cool thing about it is like bringing the soap to Apokalips. Like that was probably the plan all along, and it just building up to it. We're getting a payoff here. Scott's escaping. Now, I don't find his escapes very interesting, and maybe they're not supposed to be, because he's Mr. Miracle. So he just uses his cube to deflect the laser beams while he works on one shackle at a time. And it is very clever how he works out. It's like the last thing he does is the shackle over his waist. He removes that, and then he uses that to deflect some of the razors. But that's not where it gets good. Let's just flip to this good part here. It's like he confronts Granny Goodness. So this is like him confronting his mother figure. And I just, this part of the story is like, it's just the best. It's like, he's pretty much tells her like, just kill me. You know, it's like I could escape, but you know, I'm not going to. I'm sick of it. Yeah, I can't really escape this place. It's always with me, and you get like really just really deep psychology here, and but he's also affecting Granny Goodness by doing this. It's like here you've got a very nice panel of her looking really evil, and what she's saying. She is saying, you didn't have to know because you were what you were, just as you are. This is no choice. We all must be what we are. So like, you know, he's like saying like, you know, she's saying, the reason you were able to escape and the reason that we couldn't crush you is because you're who you are. And he goes, I had no idea who I was. I had no idea I was the son of High Father. And she goes, that's my point. It's like, it's who you are. But this is who I am. I'm a killer. But then he goes, you know, no, even if I don't put the lie to it, Barda does. She is not what she was. She is something infinitely better, something precious. Barda, yes. Once Granny's very best, the leader of the female Furies, but now your loving wife. For that alone, scot-free, you deserve to die 1,000 deaths. And he says, you know, kill me, Granny Goodness. You know, I can't offer you 1,000 deaths, but I surrender one life should be worth 1,000 kills. And she goes, don't tempt me. And and then like, you know, here Scott is, he's like, you know, showing his anguish, and then he's like, he decostumes, and it's like, and you know, it's like, you mean try to kill you so you can escape? And he goes, I give you my word, I won't even try. And she's confused. What? Why? Because there must be something higher, if only to balance everything here. And I'm sick of it all. I thought I'd already escaped all this, but it never ends. Barda and I want to live a normal life in peace. But the darkness, the violence, the madness, it just won't leave us alone. Maybe the only way to end it is to end everything. And this like last panel here, he's shedding a tear. This was like very powerful. This is like, you know, this, you know, you have to go through a lot of kind of mediocre stories, but there's like a real heart here. And then, you know, we've got this here. Oh, and that's not him shedding the tear. I forgot. That's Barda. So, you know, Barda is sitting in her cell, and we've got a similar thing going on where her lawyer is saying, you know, Barda, please, you've got to start thinking about yourself, because she's still mourning Scott. As your lawyer, I must tell you, it looks bad. They've got your fingerprints on an unexploded bomb at the scene of the crime. They've got your confession that you willfully destroyed the warehouse, and they're still mad about that square block of prime real estate that Scott ruined. And then she just says, I'd like to be alone. Well, in any case, we go to trial next Tuesday. Thank you, Ed, but I'm afraid I don't really care. So you know, this is great. This is great stuff. And then we go back to Granny. It's like, if you really want to die, dearie, Granny can arrange it. In that area alone, Granny Goodness, you have my utmost confidence. So, yeah. And then what happens? Then, you know, we're back with the Furies, and then Oberon comes. Oh yeah, the Furies are kind of like talking about who should get to kill Scott, and like they're still kind of squabbling over who should be the leader. And then Oberon is like trying to put together an army of the Apokalipsians. And and then we go back to the good part with Granny and Scott, and like, you know, it's like, well, I'm waiting, and then like she's hesitating. She doesn't really know why. I just love it. I love the anguish on her face too, because it's something is causing her to fight against her nature. I will kill you, scot-free. Do it. And then just then, Oberon and the gang show up and interrupt things. And with Oberon being there, I don't know if he thinks Oberon is dead. He might have thought Oberon is dead, and that's why he told Funky Flashman to get out of there, along with Manga, because they just left Oberon in the street, and that kind of confused me. But if he thought they were dead, then that's fine. And so, small fight ensues, and then Darkseid shows up, and he refilthifies all of his people. So yeah, he just shows up, and they try to. Oh yeah, I think that's what they do first. No, he's refilthifying them, and then they try to. Yeah, right here they hit him with the Mister, and it doesn't affect him at all. Miracle Mister. So I don't know. This was really, really good. These 2 episodes were like among the best of the series so far, along with those that took place with the head a few issues back. 12 and 11 and those back then. And so Darkseid lets Scott go, and Granny is like, why did you do it? And so this is pretty good too. It's like they leave and said, but you commanded me to have him killed, Lord Darkseid. And Darkseid said, yes. And would you have obeyed me? And would you have, excuse me, and would you have obeyed the command, Granny Goodness? Of course, my lord. And after you obeyed my command, after Scott Free lay dead at your feet, would you have continued to obey me? And she goes, but of course. I'm not so sure, Granny Goodness. His insidious word games were getting to you, just as his soap affected the others. Better to let him go than to have to kill you over his dead body. Besides, my plans for him and all his kind are far from finished. And so, yeah, they make their escape, and we're pretty much told that they're going to be heading back to Earth because they don't have any more soap left to sell. The kids are here. The kids made over $6 million, which, that's unbelievable. They're able to count. They kept filling the money in trash cans, which is kind of an interesting statement in itself. It's like they don't have any place to keep the money, so they start filling trash cans, and they have to keep getting more trash cans because they're making so much money. And so, money is trash is what I guess the subtext there is. I could be wrong. I'm not a master of that sort of thing. But it ends with the 2 guys, the 2 business guys. Your special virus has been adapted, Lord Darkseid, to attack the structure of the human gene. Good. The resulting planet-wide mutations will turn Earth into a duplicate of Apokalips, ripe for domination. And then there's some JLA crossovers, which I don't have, so I don't know how that will affect the story. But those 2 issues were really good. I really, really liked them, especially that last one there. So it's been worth it. It's been worth continuing on with this set, even when I kind of felt the stories were either mediocre or too jokey. There's a core to it. It must just come from the character of Scott Free himself. So then the other thing I want to tell you about, and this is going to be a review for the first episode of Lost in Space, and it's going to include spoilers. It's the first episode, so don't watch if you don't want to know anything. To be very honest, it was very well made. The cast was pretty good, but it was long and it was dull. I don't understand why they decided to go with this. Maybe the other episodes will be better, but it was like one of the characters, Judy, gets frozen in a block of ice, and she's there for most of the episode, and that's how I felt. It's like it was just boring. Dr. Smith doesn't turn up till the end, and it's not even really Dr. Smith. It's an escapee from a lot of stuff, like why they're leaving Earth isn't really all that well explained. There's some celestial object comes to Earth, and I guess it hits Earth, and then they're going to colonize. I don't know if those 2 things are connected. That wasn't clear to me, but they have this huge space station with all kinds of ships that look like the Jupiter 2, and And yeah, I don't know. They're just, but I guess they get attacked by a robot that's kind of the same robot that Will finds on the planet when he gets separated from his father. And it was just, yeah. Uh, Will Robinson, even though he's highly intelligent, he suffers from anxiety. Um, there's like some issue with the father, like he says something and all the girls get pissed off because the mom is in charge, and you know all the girls are super smart and super competent. So except for one ends up getting frozen in a block of ice. And then Will is treed, and there's the robot there, but he talks to the robot, and it's kind of like Daniel in the Lion's Den, where he somehow Will's kindness gets to the robot, and it was okay, but it wasn't. It's not enough to make me stop watching Deep Space Nine right now, because Deep Space Nine is really good, and this first episode was just mediocre. The rest of them might be good, but I don't have that much time to watch TV, so I don't know if I'm going to be continuing with the series unless I hear from people who like it. So that's my review of that, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, hit the like, and hit the little bell for notifications. Thank you, and have a super comic fun Friday the 13th. Read something scary. Bye.